Are we live?
Yes.
All right. Good evening, everybody. I am going to call the Tuesday, May 12th meeting of the Common Council to order, and I will ask our clerk to call the roll.
Alderperson Tenorio.
Here.
Vitale.
Here.
Weigel.
Here.
Grisham.
Here.
Haas.
Here.
Keen.
Here.
Lysick.
Here.
Reinke.
Here.
Rote.
Here.
10 present.
We have a quorum.
I'm sorry. Stefanski.
Still 10. Okay. Our pledge this evening will be led by Alderman Tenorio. I ask that you rise for the pledge, and if you are not leading the pledge, please mute your microphones so we don't all speak over one another. Okay. Moving to item D on our agendas, our standing committees will be meeting during recess. Again, this will be during the recess of our virtual meeting. Item E is the mayor's report. I just want to quickly throw in another plug for the census. We were at about 68% last I heard for the city of West Allis, and obviously the closer to 100% we get, the better we are. So I just want to encourage everybody to fill out the census if they have not already, and maybe mention it to try to get others to fill out that information. That does get us our share of a lot of federal funding for our schools and in our infrastructure and things like that. So it's very important that we get as many people to fill that out as possible. That's all I have for the mayor's report this evening. Are there any alderperson's reports?
Mayor Devine.
Alderman Lysick.
I move that we stand in recess until conclusion of the committee meetings.
Second. Grisham.
There's a motion with a second by Alderperson Grisham. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? We are in recess.
All right, the Administration and Finance Committee will come to order. All 5 members are present, and item 1 is a resolution relative to accepting the proposal of South Central Planning and Development Commission for furnishing software maintenance and implementation of My Government Online permit and licensing software for a 2-year total sum not to exceed $75,000.
Move for approval.
Second.
Lysick.
Keen.
We have a motion from Alderman Lysick and a second from Alderperson Keen. Any discussion? All in favor?
Alderman Haas, could I throw something out there real quick?
Yes, please, Ed.
I just wanted to let you guys know on the resolution there, under the Attorney General part, it does say that we sent it to the Attorney General already. We actually did not send it yet. We're waiting until both parties can sign the contract, and then we're going to send it off to the Attorney General. So I just wanted to clarify that for you guys.
Okay, thank you, Ed. Any further discussion on item 1? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And item 2 is a resolution authorizing the transfer and use of funds required to remodel the front lobby area of City Hall to create a customer service center. Ms. Grill, I think you're going to tell us about this, please.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a resolution building upon what I've discussed with the committee and council earlier this month and earlier this year. We had the opportunity to have one of our employees who's going to be leaving us soon help put together an estimate for remodeling the area. Unfortunately, the amount came back at about $30,000, which is about $5,000 above the public bid requirements. So we're going to be working, Dave Webking, Tom Cafish, and I will be working to get that either below 25,000 or asked the council to allow us to do a public bid for that project. So not necessarily what I'd hope to be presenting to you this evening. I don't know if anyone has any questions on that, or if Kale, if you wanted to jump in on some options.
Sure. So the issue really is the cutoff of $25,000 determines whether there's public bidding or not. If it's above 25,000, it has to be publicly bid, and a few other things come to play. But if it's under $25,000, then it takes a class 1 notice in the paper, a single insertion in a newspaper, in order to process that. And then we could have the council approve that contract with a contractor. But because the bid came above 25,000, the only thing we can really do is try to negotiate it down and maybe swap out materials to try to lower the cost. There's no way to do this in separate projects to get it under 25,000. The project itself has to cost under 25,000 to qualify by state law. So that is something that sort of adjusts what was presented to you tonight in that resolution. And instead, I don't know if Rebecca, if you're asking for the council to approve authorizing the public notice in anticipation of having to do that, or if you still think there's a possibility of negotiating this down to below 25,000.
I think both might be possible, but if there would, maybe if you could authorize the public notice, we can bring it again on next Tuesday. That puts us a week behind, but
Well,
it
there's
is
probably-
what?
sorry.
Go ahead.
I said there's probably gonna be some time elapsing between publication or between putting the bid out, getting bids back, and bid opening. I'm not sure if they can do it by next.
Oh, yeah, I guess I was talking about if I got it below 20, if we got it below 25, then we'd just be delayed a week. I'm sure the public notice will be well in excess of 1 week.
Yes, and so if the council authorizes the bidding for public construction here, then all that would do is just allow the state to seek bids. It still would come back before this council for approval ultimately, whatever that bid might be.
Mr. Chair. Lysick.
Hey, Alderman Lysick, go.
Rebecca, is this $30,000 over and above the amount that our internal carpenters are going to be doing?
This is going to be in conjunction. The majority of the work is going to be by the outside contractor, given the limited time that we have left with Mr. K-Fish here. So I believe the labor was around 22,000, and then the other amount up to 3141 was materials.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, this is Alderman Stefanski.
Yeah, go ahead, Alderman Stefanski.
Just out of curiosity, why do we feel the need to spend this kind of money again?
One of the, there's several reasons. The first has to do with the safety of the building. Right now, people can just come in and move throughout the building, and it puts our staff at risk for some type of event. There's a lot of, I mean, we've seen a lot of different things that happened at workplaces. Secondly, there's an efficiency that can be gained for our businesses and residents by going through a streamlined process where they're dealing with one customer service center at City Hall, which would eventually, in conjunction with item number 1 that was approved, which would eventually, through attrition, lead to a reduction in staff. And then thirdly, it prevents, if we have other contagious diseases or pandemics, this helps keep the employees, again, separated from the number of residents or members of the public that would be coming in the building.
So we've got a customer service counter right now where I'm gonna use, for example, Ann and Janelle sit, okay? Wouldn't it be just easier putting up a piece of plexiglass and having an opening there that keeps them protected if that's what you're worried about? I mean, we've had this city hall open for longer than I've even lived here. And couldn't you lock off other parts of it and have people have access to it instead of investing all this money in it?
I don't know that we can lock the stairway doors. I believe those have to remain unlocked. I don't know if Ed's still on here. So that would still be allowing people to come in, and it wouldn't be preventing people from going into other areas of the building whatsoever. That would
Yeah,
only,
those stair doors have to stay unlocked on the first floor at all times.
Alderman Haas, Grisham here. I have
Go
a
ahead.
question for Rebecca. Has there been in history any incidences where our public safety or that of our staff has been put in jeopardy at City Hall?
there are numerous times where we've contacted the police department to assist us with people who are exhibiting concerning behavior, people dealing with mental health crises and different types of things like that. I don't know that there's ever been a time where someone has been directly injured by an employee in the building. Maybe someone else has information on that. I don't know. I've worked for other businesses where that has occurred, and sometimes it's a little better to be proactive on things if it's possible.
Right. Second part of that question would be, in these instances, were the staff behind a counter where they remained safe and not had physical contact per se that you're aware of?
Well, just for example, when the mayor and I have had to call people, our offices are wide open, so we're not behind a counter. People come rushing into our office. I've had people that I've had to ask to leave employment with the city rush into my office, which is somewhat of a concern. The mayor, I mean, there's a lot of challenging situations that people encounter with the city where it doesn't make them necessarily happy to come to City Hall. So the anger and frustration that some people might feel could rise to a level of violence
Okay,
that-
and go ahead, I'm sorry.
that I don't even think a counter would necessarily help, but at least we're going to have the glass in place. We're going to have an area for the staff to leave. We're going to have the rest of the city hall blocked off. So if there is some type of event, we can at least lock down and protect as much as possible. I don't know if the mayor has, oh, sorry.
Yeah, I do actually, Mr. Chair, if I
Yeah, please, go ahead, Mayor.
and I think when we are looking at this plan, we're not just looking at the clerk's office. There have been incidents up on the second floor in housing. There have been incidents in bins where people are upset about an experience, and then, you know, like, it's never been physical violence yet, but it has been screaming and yelling, and there have been things thrown. I've had people that I'm very much in favor of keeping an open door policy, but I have had people come in that have had very aggressive behaviors due to mental health issues. And there have been some times where it's, you know, I'm not scared, but it does get a little bit too close to a physical altercation, in my opinion, that I think it's important we look at this beyond just the clerk's office and the treasurer area, but the entire building.
Mr. Chair,
Alderman
Council.
Lysick.
I think anyone that's been in the private sector realizes that the places of work, whether it's industrial or or large commercial entities have protected reception areas. Non-employees are not free to wander around the building in this day and age anymore. I can tell you, we've had instances in the past where I worked where a fellow was a disgruntled employee, came back with a gun, and ended up leaving and shooting up a tavern on 51st and Lincoln in the evening hours. And so this is common. Tracy, you work at Komatsu. I'm sure you have a secured lobby. You can't get in without an ID badge or be buzzed in by the receptionist or the person in charge there. This is just common today. I know we have people working at City Hall after normal business hours. I'd like them to feel secure that they don't have to worry about someone coming in and walking through the building or hiding in some corner of the building while everyone leaves and being there. We want to have our employees feel safe and secure, and I want the public to feel safe and secure in that building. And so I think this is just the way things are in this day and age. This isn't the 50s and the 60s anymore, when like it was when the building was constructed, where you didn't have to worry about these types of things. In this day and age, you do. There's been too many instances across the country where disgruntled citizens, disgruntled employees have come back to work with firearms or just to harass people. We just had an incident at Molson Coors Brewery not that long ago. I don't want to be responsible for that happening in West Allis. I want to make sure our employees are as secure as possible, and I would feel terrible if something happened and we didn't at least take any precautions that we could to prevent it.
Mr. Chair?
Oh, Alderman Stefanski, sorry.
So real quick to answer Tom's question about my place, we have just a glass door. Receptionist can buzz the person in, but if somebody wants to come through, they're coming through that glass door, it doesn't matter. Number two, I brought up, even before I got elected years ago, about doing something for the Common Council. And everybody kind of blew me off and laughed about it and went, not going to happen here. But now all of a sudden, and I've given cases of when it's happened at Common Council meetings that people have been coming with guns, and it doesn't matter. But now all of a sudden we want to change things in City Hall and spend money on this. But are we going to do anything with the Common Council area to begin with? If we're going to do everything, if we're looking at protecting everybody, then we should look at options for everything.
Okay, and we need to decide how to proceed. I think my thought is that it would be best to hold this resolution at this point when for staff to figure out, well, can we keep it under 25 perhaps by doing more work in-house, or do we want to send it out for bid? I think that might be a discussion for our next council meeting. And but at this point, certainly staff knows that the consensus of the council is that we need to proceed on this. Does anybody have any other thoughts or thoughts to the contrary?
Mr. Chair, Reinke?
Yep, Alderperson Reinke.
Thank you. I totally agree with you. I think we should hold it and talk about it more. However, I want to reiterate that basically at the last meeting, Rebecca indicated that we have a budgetary challenge this particular year. I think we've had a challenge almost every year, but this year is equally important. $1 million is a shortage, is a lot of money. My concern is regarding where are we getting these funds from? Rebecca has indicated a lot, it was about 9 strategies that were excellent for our employees. But the employees are, some of them are saying, and they are aware that we're voting on this tonight, that basically they are being told that we have a budgetary challenge. And yet if we spend money on this, this particular project, what are we saying to them? That they aren't important or they are important? Is it possible to put this on hold at this time until we have the monies? I still don't know where they're coming from. As far as being threatened, the only threatening I remember is Bob Brown coming in with his entourage during a council meeting, displaying signs about abortion, which was very, very provocative, we might say. But the police at that time quelled the group, and there were no problems. However, as Alderman Stefanski has mentioned about this, but the aldermen themselves, actually, you can be threatened at your home, as I was threatened at one time with a constituent. If the man would have had a gun, I probably wouldn't be here today because he was so upset. I can agree with the mayor that, and Rebecca, that there are times when basically there are people with mental problems that do come in, I would assume, the city hall. However, I don't know basically if remodeling is going to help this. All I want to know is where are the funds coming from and what are the costs going to be? And I agree that we should talk more about where we're going to get the money and if we can possibly do something regarding the costs.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Grill, go ahead.
regarding where the money is coming from, the request is coming from a reallocation of the executive assistant position that the mayor and I had in our office. We have discussed not filling that position because if something like this would go through, the mayor and I wouldn't be regularly responding to people walking in our office and working with the constituency that is requiring some help, that's suffering from some mental health issues. When the building is open, that's a fairly frequently occurrence. So part of the cost savings of not having that person here will be, that's why I'm recommending moving that money one time and not continuing having that extra money every year in this office by doing this remodeling. Without the remodeling, we'll continue to have people coming into our office will need additional assistance, and I don't believe that we can go long-term without necessarily hiring someone. Additionally, we will be requiring pretty much to stay fully staffed the way we are here with all of our departments, because we won't be eliminating the interruptions of people coming and stopping at numerous counters before they get to the office that they are here to deal with. So that's where the money is coming from.
Mr. Chair, Ranky again.
Sure, go
A
ahead,
lot
Alderperson
of-
Ranky.
A lot of the, I would say all of our rooms now to our separate departments have locks, have locks on to get in. So I would say probably the clerk's office in your particular office, Rebecca, and thank you for explaining that to us, are the only ones open. Am I not correct on that? Everyone has locks on their doors?
Mr. Chair,
Sure, go ahead.
it actually would be the opposite. The attorney's office is locked, communications department and IT are locked. The rest of the departments have open doors, and when
Right.
people come into the building, they'll come into the HR department, they'll come into the mayor's office, then they'll go to the clerk's office, maybe stop at the treasurer's office, and then go to the second floor to the office that they're needing to be stopped at. That's a regular occurrence here. So,
I see, Rebecca, thank you.
Mr. Chair, Lysick.
And I think Alderperson Reinke had one more thing and then Alderman Lysick.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I just wanted to thank Rebecca for explaining it further. I didn't realize that we had such a problem with people wandering all over the city hall. I'll just put it that way.
we did have to lock the employee lounge last year because we had, or the year before, because we had homeless people coming in there and things like that too. So yeah, sorry, I just thought I'd add that.
And Alderman Lysick.
Just to piggyback on what Rebecca indicated, we have far too many people wandering around City Hall, going to various departments, as she said, not knowing which one to go to. I think it's essential that we have a central reception desk where, as a clearinghouse, to direct people where to go appropriately. And yes, we have a board up there. Either people don't see it or they don't understand where they need to go. Do I need to go to building inspection or do I need to go to planning department? That's one issue. The other issue is every time we have someone going to these offices, it takes staff time. And the goal here is to reduce staff by eliminating all of this unnecessary action. If we have some kiosks set up in this area so that people can, number one, apply for a bartender's license or a tavern license or a building permit down in this area, there is no need to wander around City Hall to try to do these things. We want to make departments as efficient as possible, and that means the fewer interruptions from their work, the better. Some people just have questions that can be answered easily. They may not have an appointment with a department head, but they want to go up and talk to them. I think it's appropriate that they go through a receptionist in the lobby and ask if that person is available before going up there, talking to the receptionist in each department, because there's one everywhere, and saying, oh, can I see Mr. Lazinski? No, he's not in right now. He's busy. Okay. Or yes, he's in, but you can't see him. He's going into a meeting in 5 minutes. That should all be accomplished by a receptionist downstairs. Call upstairs. Ed says, nope, I can't make it right now. Set up an appointment with me. Give me a call. That's a much more professional way to do things and a much more efficient way to do things. And we don't need to bother Ed's staff with doing those types of things. And also every other department head staff with doing those types of things. You have one or two people sitting in the reception area to do this. I think if you, those of you newer older persons, it would behoove you to take a ride and go down to Oak Creek City Hall sometime and see how that's run. Much more efficiently. Everything, it goes through a center reception desk. If you want to see the public works director, you go to the reception desk and they ring him and they bring him down. You don't go up to see them. They bring them down, you meet in a conference room downstairs. You don't have people wandering all over the City Hall. So, you know, I think this is the goal that we talked about some years ago, striving to attain this. And this is just one step in that direction. So I think it behooves us not to hold this, but to move forward at this time and authorize staff to do whatever is necessary to implement this, whether it's using, if we have to go out for bid, we go out for bid. If we can get below the $30,000 or $25,000, then we do that, but we give them the option to do that either way. I would recommend that would be the course of action, I think, is the appropriate one to take, and then they can come back to us and report back which way they're going. And at this time, I would move that we pass the resolution, but amending it to allow staff to either advertise for bids for $30,000 or reduce the cost.
I'll second.
Mr. Chair,
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and
This is not
Alderperson.
on the committee.
I had a question. Has there been any,
Alderperson Keen, yeah, thanks. Tom corrected me. Sorry about that, Dana.
it's okay. Has there been any employee feedback or engagement on this of what their thoughts were on the safety and the necessity of how they feel safe after hours, like in winter when it is dark by 3 o'clock, and the efficiencies of the building? Has there been any employee engagement?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Ms. Grill.
Well, there's not been a specific survey about that. We've been discussing this for well over 3 years regarding the safety. I believe there was a safety audit done of the building. I don't know if it was in 2013 or 2014, and various improvements were identified, including the Common Council changes, which so there's been a lot of background on getting to this point. I've had concerns from people who talked about going out to their cars in the parking lot across the street and things like that. There's a few of us that do come early in the morning or stay late at night, which it could be dangerous for some people. We've had to have the custodian have homeless people escort them out, which sometimes have resulted in the police being called. So,
Great.
Mr.
you.
Chair,
Mayor Devine.
sorry, I wanted to also kind of jump on the answer for Alderperson Keen, that there was some landscaping changes on the outside of the building too. That was because of employee feedback, where they were worried about in winter when it's dark at night walking out, and those bushes were pretty tall, out in the parking lot. So there was some exterior improvements based on employee input a couple of years back.
Mr. Chair,
And Alderman Rowe.
I see Chief Mitchell's on the line. I wonder if he wants to share any of his thoughts on this, if he may. I see his name up there. Does that mean he's here?
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Did you have some thoughts, sir?
Yeah, so the police department does respond to City Hall, as the city administrator and the mayor have indicated, for problems with disorderly people. In general, I agree with President Lysick that in the private industry, you see security of this sort routinely. If you want to compare City Hall to the police department, and granted, we have different security risks than City Hall would, but we don't let people walk into the police department and go to the detective bureau. We meet them at the front, and the detective bureau comes to them at the glass. So from my standpoint, the price tag that has been attached to this, and I won't address the efficiencies because that's someone else's issue, but it's a pretty cheap price tag for a security fix that has been long overdue. I'm actually surprised that the amount is that low. So yes, the police department would support this.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Grisham.
And I think Alderman Vitale was first, but Alderman Vitale's got to take himself off of mute.
Can you hear me now?
We got you now, Vince. Go ahead.
All right. So I'd like to go back a little bit on the effect of the, what really has been happening over City Hall. In all fairness, I was there one time with Rebecca, and some lady she stormed in that office, and she had some mental issue. She just came out from Roger Hospital, and she was a very, very hard, to deal with. She was shouting, she was upset, she wanted to talk to the mayor. Well, the mayor, of course, was not there, but just besides the point. So she was very disgruntled. So we were ready actually to call the police department at that point, but then all of a sudden she ran out. I believe she used the bathroom just as well. So questions like that, something minimum happens right now. It says, well, nothing could happen. But like the chief said, and Alderman Lysak addressed the fact, to me, is not a big cost for us to make more effective, more secure. At 4:45 at night, you could have a street person just walk at City Hall, go down in the IT department, go right into the bathroom and stay there. I'm sure it's been happen, those coincidences, but the fact is that to me is not really what I call a huge investment, really, for something is going to be there, not just tomorrow, but for years to come. And the fact is, like I said before, Hope Creek, fine, they built a new structure, a new building, but the fact is, that's what they did. I saw it, and to me, it's fantastic. I don't want to see anybody just walks in anywhere, just goes upstairs, downstairs, in the engineering department, and it's always somebody has some tensions out there, the way they react. To me, it's something is not to play around. Too many people are, there's a percentage of people are crazy out there today. I tell you just the way I feel. So that's why I think this is a protective move for the City Hall to not for today, but for tomorrow just as well. To me, that's a very minimum cost for us to do that in comparison how much cost I did experience throughout the years in the budget and what we have done. So to me, this is something that we should not just wait around for another 3 months, 4 months. It's something it could be accommodated with a very minimum cost. So if it costs $25,000, I think it's great, But that again, it's up to Rebecca now. For me, I think we should move forward. I did second the questions, so that's all I have, Chair Haas. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Vitale, and Alderperson Grisham.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you all for your insight. It's without question, in my opinion, yes, this work needs to be done. It's been in the discussion over the past 3 years. I can appreciate the reasoning behind it. However, I also have to circle back to Alderwoman Ranke's point that we are looking at $1 million shortfall here. We have major constraints. We're in the middle of a pandemic. And I need to know that I'm making a decision on behalf of the constituents that we're spending their money wisely at this point. I'm not dismissing the fact that safety is not, a critical thing. However, that's really what I'm looking at. Is this the time right now that we do this? And I can't say health-wise that doing this renovation is going to stop future pandemics. I can see the safety measure of it, but as I said, I'm looking at the spending on this. And is this something that, yes, we can put on hold and say, definitely, we can do this in the future, but right now is not probably the time to spend this money. So thank you.
And Mr. Chair, Alderman Weigel.
Alderman Weigel, go ahead.
So I just want to see if I understood the city administrator correctly. This one-time expense of around $30,000 would gain us a long-term cost savings and likely canceling what is currently an open position in the budget, as well as gaining the safety issues
and the incremental efficiencies across most of the departments at City Hall. Am I summing that up correctly, Rebecca?
Yes, at 1/3 of the cost of the position with benefits.
Okay, so for this 30-ish expense is about 1/3 of what that position that you would need to fill if we don't do this, in your estimation at least. And again, we're gaining the safety issues, we're gaining the less distraction in most, if not all, the departments at City Hall. I know we've been talking about this for a while. My other question is, are we going to gain any economies in the price if we act quickly while City Hall is essentially closed, or is that just going to be minimal? I mean, I understand we probably want to act quickly because right now City Hall's, but we wouldn't be able to, I mean, hopefully, fingers crossed, City Hall isn't closed much longer and the rest of us can go back to a normal life. But I mean, we weren't thinking about like rushing through this now to do it, especially if it has to go out to bid. That's going to be at least 30 days, I imagine, correct?
Mr. Chair.
Please go ahead.
So there's a little bit more on the staff savings. So when you reduce the, when we install an automatic and online permitting and licensing system, there's less need for people to come in here. When you don't have people getting interrupted so often, people are able to do their jobs more efficiently. And through attrition, there will be possibly much more staff savings than just one position. We're going to be talking about probably at our structural deficit committee on Thursday, almost 300 different options. I think there's some duplicates, so maybe 250 different ideas of how to do cost savings. One of those we'll be also talking about at next week's council meeting is a reduction in force through an early retirement incentive program. Without these type of things happening, we will not be able to have as many people participate in that because we will still need the staff members. Regarding the rushing into it, in my mind, if we could, the sooner that we can get this done, the better, because the sooner that we can work into offering early retirement incentive program, if it's approved by the council, the less our deficit will be reducing our deficit that we're going to be having this year. I am the same person that told you we're going to be at least $1 million short. I'm respectfully requesting that we put this amount that we had in the budget towards this so we can gain further efficiencies and savings going forward.
Okay, thanks, Ms. Grill.
Here, I have
Any
one-
further? Alderman Stefanski.
So if we, if this keeps going on and things keep shut down for longer, and we keep stopping fees from being charged, such as parking restrictions, things like that, our debt is going to grow even more, correct?
Our lost revenue, yes, we would lose more revenue.
So then maybe we need to stop doing those things and stop that from bleeding. And then this could be justified to do. Just my thought.
Any further discussion? Okay, and remind everyone that we're in committee currently, so just the Administration and Finance Committee can vote. All those in favor of the motion, the resolution as amended, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, that passes 5-0. And then item 3 is a communication from the mayor, city attorney, health commissioner regarding state and local orders and other matters related to COVID-19.
Move to approve and place on file.
We have a
Second.
motion from Alderperson Reinke. I'll accept the second, but we still want to hear what's going on.
Well, Alderperson Ranky isn't on the committee.
Yeah.
That's right. I apologize, Mr. Chair.
I'll make Rosalie's motion as a committee member. Move to accept and place on file.
Thank you, Marty.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. And who would like to talk to us about this, please?
I guess, Mr. Chair, I can start.
Yes, please, Mayor Devine.
Thank you. Basically, we are still under the state order until at least the 26th, but suburban health officers from 11 of them, the North Shore is combined into one health department, but they have been meeting with staff from other communities, and they have just basically been working on a reopening plan should the Supreme Court overturn the governor's stay-at-home order. So this is just kind of an informational piece. I'm assuming that our health commissioner is on this call and can kind of elaborate on my summary. But yeah, thanks, Bob. But essentially, they have been merging elements of the president's Reopen America plan with elements of the governor's Badger Bounce Back plan. And they have been working on a three-tiered program, essentially. And it was in front of the ICC yesterday, and there was a discussion on that about the benchmarks and about the plan that they had come up with. I think, Mr. Chair, if it's okay with you, I would now turn things over to our health commissioner, Bob Leishow, to maybe elaborate a little bit on the bones of this proposal.
Yes, please, go ahead, Bob.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, just to continue with what the Mayor has started to describe, I think it would be helpful just to kind of give as well a little bit of background history in terms of kind of where we've come so far, in the past few months since this has been declared a pandemic, and then also talk a little bit about what the respective yet collective group of health officers throughout Milwaukee County have prepared to this point. So in December of 2019, a novel strain of coronavirus was detected, now named COVID-19, and it has spread throughout the world. COVID-19 was declared a public health emergency of international concern on January 30th, 2020, and was ultimately declared a pandemic on March 11th, 2020. In Wisconsin, Governor Tony Evers declared a public health emergency on March 12th, 2020, and directed all agencies to support efforts to respond to and contain COVID-19 in Wisconsin. At a national level, President Donald Trump proclaimed a national emergency concerning COVID-19 on March 13th, 2020. So while we work to slow COVID-19 across our respective jurisdictions, we are guided by the federal guidelines for Opening Up America Again plan and the Wisconsin Badger Bounce Back plan that both provide guidance and metrics that are designed to slowly and cautiously reopen businesses and activities in our communities. Moving the local health plan for Milwaukee County, which is what it's now called, and that can change at any given time, is based on the foundations of federal and state guidance to slow the spread of COVID-19 and bring back our economy. The foundation for most public health and executive guidance has been based on flattening the curve to ensure healthcare capacity is not severely strained. The Wisconsin Safer at Home order has worked to flatten the curve of infections of COVID-19 in Wisconsin, and Wisconsin has seen meaningful gains from this proactive step. Milwaukee County data demonstrated that there was an initial peak of COVID-19 cases in early April, but COVID-19 cases have been trending upward in recent weeks and have surpassed even the previous peak. With increasing testing capacity, we anticipate increased detection of new COVID-19 cases in the coming weeks that will correspond with identifying significant community transmission. This is a crucial time for Milwaukee County to maintain the momentum in containing COVID-19 in our community and halt further dissemination of this disease. Again, to which there is no known immunity, and so far we have no vaccine. We know that the fight to contain COVID-19 is dynamic and ultimately is dependent long-term on the widespread availability of a vaccine and or some form of treatment. So when deciding what action is necessary given current law, local health officers within Milwaukee County have considered various criteria, including the rate of spread of COVID-19 in Wisconsin, the healthcare capacity to meet the needs of the state, the testing, contact tracing, and isolation capacity in the state, the availability of PPE for healthcare workers, first responders, and other public servants that are required to perform face-to-face services, and the economic needs of Wisconsin and Wisconsinites. A measured, phased-in approach that utilizes data-driven gating criteria and aligns with federal and state metrics is needed for Milwaukee County. Recognizing that Milwaukee County has made progress in flattening the curve, we focus on the importance of continuation and resumption of businesses and activities for sectors of our economy that are able to operate with physical distancing and protective measure requirements and safe business practices in place. So here we have, by reference, looking at the phases that's consistent with the Badger Bounce Back Plan. Currently, what we would say, in terms of where we're at right now, we would likely be, or we are in a phase A, with certain parameters in place. That's based on metrics, largely driven by what we know for like quarantine rates or days, which is typically 14 days, not quarantine or not quarantine rates, I'm sorry. Essentially the rate of transmission, 14 days. Moving into Plan B. So for Plan A now, moving into Plan B and beyond, what we're looking though to do is use metrics that will allow us to progress through the various phases that will better allow us to reopen the economy, businesses and activities in particular, in a way that is structured, but then also in a way that is again, I'm not going to hesitate to repeat myself, but data driven. So with that, yeah, there is a draft plan that all 11 health officers have put together to this point. It is a living, breathing document that is subject to changes on a fairly routine basis, but really is a plan that is in place should the Supreme Court decide to overturn Governor Evers' Safer at Home order. So with that, I will pause.
All right, thank you, Bob. Any discussion before we vote? And then all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we'll place that on file. And then anything else to properly become before the Administration and Finance Committee? I have a motion to adjourn A and F.
Second.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
I call the advisory committee to order. Let the minutes reflect that all members are present. Number 4 on the agenda is a resolution relative to the location of the City of West Dallas polling places, beginning with the August 11th, 2020 election.
So move.
Second, Grisham.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 5 is an appointment of Alderman Weigel and reappointment of Alderman Haas by Mayor Devine and to the West Dallas Community Development Authority Committee.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
Second.
Alderman Vitale.
Aye.
He moved, I seconded it, Alderman Stefanski. Can I get a little information and experience about Alderman Weigel and Hostel on this?
Of
Oh,
course.
you have to ask them.
Just kidding.
Alderman Weigel will be a newbie on this one. So it's been, any more discussion on Alderman Weigel and Alderman Haas? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Now, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
Second, Madam Chair, Vitale.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Thank you, people.
You're so good. You're so effective. I like that. I like it.
All right, as we all virtually file back into council chambers, I'm gonna call us back to order. And we will begin with the report from the Administration and Finance Committee. I'll ask the clerk to read that out for us.
Mr. Number 1 was recommended for approval. Number 3 was recommended to be placed on file, and there's a request to call out number 2 separately.
So move.
Second.
There's a motion and a second.
Discussion?
Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
I'm sorry, I heard a voice.
Mr. Mayor, this is Kale. Just want to double check. Is Alderperson Haas as the chair going to make the motion? And then there's no need for a second.
Typically would.
He's muted.
I let Alderman Vitale go ahead and do that.
Thank you. I mean,
but-
you're such a courteous gentleman, Alderman Haas. I always appreciate it. That's
All right,
okay.
so
Sorry about that.
just don't jump in front of Alderperson Ranky, or she might, you know. So on the Administration and Finance Committee, we have items 1 and 3 with a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderperson Tenorio. Vitale.
Aye.
Weigel.
Aye.
Grisham.
Aye.
Haas.
Aye.
Keen.
Aye.
Lysick.
Aye.
Ranky.
Aye.
Rote.
Aye.
Stefanski.
Aye.
10 in favor, 0 opposed.
Motion carries. Now we have item 2.
Mayor Devine, I move approval of item 2. I got to jump in there before Alderman Vitale does.
Do we have a,
Mayor Devine, Ranky?
yes, go ahead, Alderperson Ranky. But first we need a second on if we can get a
Oh,
second
yes.
on Alderperson Haas.
Second, Key.
All right, second, we'll go to Alderperson Keen. Now Alderperson Ranky with the discussion.
If I recall Rebecca saying that this quote was given by a current employee, and this employee is leaving, so he would not be doing the job. Do I understand that correctly, Rebecca?
Mr. President or Chair.
Go ahead.
The employee coordinated us getting the quote. So he, his knowledge and ability to get this together for us resulted in, my opinion, us getting the best quality quote. He won't be here to oversee the project in its entirety, especially if we're going to public bid.
So we will be going to public bid then. it sounds like. Is that right, Rebecca?
The amendment was to either allow us to go to public bid, or if we can get it under 25,000, that it would be approved. So we're exploring the two options right now, if this would be approved by the council.
Thank you for clarifying that for me.
Thank you. Any other discussion on item 2? Hearing none. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderperson Tenorio. Vitale.
Aye.
Weigel.
Aye.
Grisham.
No.
Haas.
Aye.
Keen.
Aye.
Lysick.
Aye.
Ranky.
Aye.
Rote.
Aye.
Stefanski.
No.
8 in favor, 2 opposed.
Motion carries. That'll conclude the Administration and Finance Committee. We will now go to the Advisory Committee, and I will ask the clerk to read out the report from the Advisory Committee.
The Advisory Committee recommended approval of both resolution number 4 and appointment in number 5.
I move to approve the committee report. Mayor
Second.
Devine?
Chairperson Ranky moves approval of the report, and it was seconded by Alderperson Grisham.
Thank you.
Any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Alderman Weigel.
would it be appropriate for Alderman Haas and I to vote in the affirmative, or should we abstain on this? I don't recall.
Believe you're able to vote on this,
Yeah.
but I will maybe let our city attorney jump in if I'm wrong.
If you're receiving any payment as part of your appointment, then I would advise you to abstain. But if you're doing this as part of the goodwill of your heart, you can feel free to vote yourself on.
So we will focus on the goodwill in the hearts of Alderman Weigel and Alderman.
Such generous people, you know.
Is there any other discussion? There is no discussion. I will ask our clerk to call the roll.
Alderperson Tenorio. Vitale.
Aye.
Weigel.
Aye.
Grisham.
Aye.
Haas.
Aye.
Keen.
Aye.
Lysick.
Aye.
Ranky.
Aye.
Rote.
Aye.
Stefanski.
Aye.
10 in favor.
Motion carries.
Mayor Devine,
Alderman Lysick.
I move that we adjourn until our next regularly scheduled meeting, Tuesday, May 19th at 7 p.m.
Second, Vitale.
The motion and a second by Alderman Vitale. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Mayor.
you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.